You saw the title. We're gonna talk about spring books, and I know it's late. I already filmed this in March, and I didn't like that video at all, mostly how I looked on it. And yeah, I'm refilming it. It's April now. It's still spring. Technically, spring ends in like June 20th or something like that. I'm not really sure. So we still have time, and I have some recommendations for spring books today because in my experience, spring is the time when you feel the most energized, the most likely to start something new, like finally picking up books and reading. Um, so I just have a few recommendations from my perspective. Of course, you can pick whatever books you want to read, but yeah, I have. Can you see them? I don't know how to work with this camera. I think I need a new lens, but whatever. Let's get started with the books. I actually have forgotten already what I picked. Probably a lot of pretentious stuff. I'm actually gonna film books for pretentious people soon because I'm an expert. However, let's start with a classic. And the first book that I want to recommend for spring is actually Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I wonder if you can... Wait, I have my... Oh, the connection turned off, but I have my... Should I just do it with this little screen that I have? Okay. So Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre. Okay, let's just be basic and say this is a very cottagecore book. I think this is a great fit for a more chilled out spring in a colder environment. So it's still kind of cold, it's still windy like it is here right now. So you're just having a very British spring with this book. You drink some tea, you have some scones, whatever, and you read this book. It is not very plot-based, I would say. There is a lot of turns and things like that in this book, but it's mostly about the vibe, to be honest, at least for me. And it follows Jane Eyre, the protagonist of this book, who I actually really enjoyed the beginning chapters of this book because when she was a child, she resembled me a bit more than when she grew up. So that says a lot about my mental state and maturity. But if you haven't read this, I also believe that this is one of the most accessible Bronte sisters books. It's a great start because Wuthering Heights is quite depressing. I forgot the name of the other one, but it's also a bit more difficult to get into. But this one, I would say, is much easier. So I definitely recommend this one for the vibes, you know, those little rabbits and their tea parties, like all of that. Like, insert Pinterest board here, basically. The next book that I want to talk about is actually called The Summer Book. And, okay, let's zoom in. The Summer Book. So, The Summer Book by Tove Jansson. You might have heard of her before. She made Moments, the children's series that were quite popular in Scandinavia, I guess. I have read them as a child, but I'm not sure if a lot of people share them because in more Western Europe I haven't noticed people knowing what they are. But it's a very fun children's book with a lot of messages that are quite important, and I also think a lot of people do know about it because of like Snuff King and stuff, and they even have video games now, and I actually have a Moment book there, but that's for later. So the Summer Book, even though it is called the Summer Book, to me it really reads as a spring book anticipating summer, but I wouldn't read this in a hot summer day. It's a book about a little girl who lives on an island in Finland or Sweden, I'm not sure which one, with her grandma, with her dad. And it's just a book about existing and asking questions, and a lot of questions about death. But because it goes through a child's perspective, those questions become a bit more light and there is no stigma against it, and I would also say that this book is quite witty and it's a lot of fun actually. It's quite short. How many pages? There is like around 200 pages, but I mean the letters are quite big, so a lot of you brain-rotted people will like that. Okay, next book. I'm trying to remember what I have behind me. I think, yes, poetry. Let's talk about poetry. A little break. So for the poetry part of this selection, I would just recommend to pick up something that you want to read, because poetry is very personal. I have experienced quite a lot when I pick up a poetry book and I actually hate it. I don't want to say names of any books, but there is one quite popular poetry book that I did not enjoy, even though I really, really tried. In any case, what I picked up for myself is a collection of short stories by Oscar Wilde, one of my favorite authors. This is not really poetry, it's more about short stories, but his writing is very poetic, and I would definitely recommend as an easy getaway into classics and poetry. And the second one I have is probably a bit harder to find. It is a Victorian Posy. This is a collection that was released by Penhaligon's, which is actually a perfume brand from UK. And it's supposed to smell. It doesn't really smell. I got this for like €5 or something at a thrift store, because it is from 80s or 70s, so like 50 years at this point. And it's just a collection of different Victorian poems. And this book is split in 4 seasons. And I also think that poetry is kind of more of a thing that you pick up, read one poem, and put the book down. Maybe analyze the poem, etc. But you don't just read this in one go. You could if you want, but it's not what I do. And I really enjoyed the spring part of this poem. I especially liked, what are they called? Snowdrops? Like the little flowers that grow under the snow. I really liked the poem about that. And this book has very nice... wait, can you see it? I'm gonna hide behind it because it looks weird. But yeah, this is a very fun book. If you can find it somewhere, do get it. If not, you can find tons of books about flowers and poetry. And there was one poem in this one that made me feel bad about myself, because it was written by some, I believe, 8 or 11-year-old Victorian girl, and it had such nice prose, and I was like, I would not be able to write this now. Yeah. Nothing pisses me off more than talented children, honestly. Now, my pretentious side is shining through right now, but we have a Russian classic for the spring, and it is A Hero for a Time by Mikhail Lermontov. I read it in Russian. You don't have to read it in Russian, guys. It's okay to read a translation. I'm not sure if it will be as good, but you can. This book follows quite a horrible main protagonist. It was very hard to... So this book follows Pechorin, quite a horrible person who gets very bored very easily, and that kind of really reminds me of myself. And I kind of have this love-hate relationship with books that have aspects of myself that are quite negative, that I see and recognize. It's a bit of a self-reflection book as well, but of course not 100%. He was actually a horrible person. I am not, hopefully. So it was very fun. The first part of the book is written from a different character's perspective, and the second part of the book is basically his diary, and I like the second part much more. But I want to say that this is a spring book because the setting is the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, and I love the biome. I think that's a Minecraft word, but maybe it's used in real life as well. I really love the mountains and the forests and the mountains, the streams, etc. And to me, it always is very rejuvenating, like spring water. And it always reminds me of spring. Therefore, I think for me personally, this is very much a spring book, and especially I think nature wakes up in spring, and this book is always set in nature, well, almost always. Therefore, a great recommendation, and I think an easier Russian classic to get into, but honestly I do not know how the translation is, because with a lot of those Russian classics it's all about the beautiful language that is used, especially something like White Knights. But yeah, I'm not sure. The next recommendation I have is once again a category of things. So we have just some childhood things. So for me, moments. I'm reading the second one. So I'm reading this one right now. It's a very pretty book with a lot of nice illustrations. And another one that I'm reading right now is, I think in English, La Put a Castle in the Sky. And it's a manga by, based on, and this is a manga based on the Hayao Miyazaki movie that I quite enjoy. It was one of my favorites as a child, and I was in Paris. I saw this manga. Well, there had quite a few actually of Studio Ghibli mangas, and I picked this one. So I'm currently reading it. This one is in French, but I'm sure there is English versions as well. And yes, I'm that cultured. I am reading in French, in Russian, in English. And my last recommendation for the spring books is actually a lighter read. And this one I have is Agatha Christie's Sleeping Murder. And yeah, Agatha Christie really pioneered the murder mystery trope and the books. This is quite old. This book itself, I believe, is from 70s. I don't even remember where I found it. I think it was one of those little libraries in the city where you put a book in, take one, or you can just take one and then bring it back, whatever it is. But I quite enjoyed this one, so I just took it and put some self-help books that I hated it. But maybe they will help someone. So because this little book, it's a paperback, not bag. It has some pages. It has some pages that are falling. It has some pages that are just falling out. But in general, I really like Agatha Christie. This is for like the evening in spring. Maybe it's a cold day, so you sit next to the fire and read this. It is quite a quick read, and if you read more of her books, you start to notice that all of them follow the same pattern, the same formula, and they become less interesting. But if you haven't read any of her books, I recommend this. Or maybe Murder on the Orient Express, and then there was none. What other ones can I recommend? I'm currently reading actually another one, Murder at the Vicarage, I think that's what it's called. Something Vicarage. Thank you so much for listening to this. I hope that this list inspired you. Maybe you will pick up a book and read something. No, but follow me here. I just started this channel. I ran another channel on YouTube for years and years, since probably before middle school. And I never really focused on a niche. Therefore, I posted like once a year. One video would get 10k views, one video would get 10 views. Never had a theme, so not very consistent. Here on this channel, I will be talking about books, reading, writing, some lifestyle things, just to inspire you, because I have such a beautiful and amazing life. No, but you can basically expect just more of me. Reading, writing, just being creative, I think, because I don't want to put myself completely in a box. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. Bye. Oh, wait, not bye yet. You have to follow me on Substack, on Instagram, and whatever other links I put in my description. So go there, subscribe to this channel, like this video. Yeah, I think that's it.